AITA for not trying to reunite my daughters. I have two daughters, K26 and Layla 22. As a single mom, I tried my best for both of them. But Layla, while I love her, makes it very hard to do so at times. She's always been attention-seeking, stubborn, and jealous. We did family therapy and individual therapy for years after her dad passed away when she was 9, but something snapped in her. AITA part. When Kay was 22, Layla 18 at the time, she had a boyfriend, Mick 20. He seemed nice. Unfortunately, Layla needed all of his attention. It was constant. He'd be over at our house on couch watching a movie with Kay, and Layla had to be right there next to him. When they went out, Layla chucked a fit if they didn't invite her. She messaged him constantly. She even went to his soccer games, skipping work at her job when she hadn't seen him in a while, sending him pictures of herself, crying when I would ask her to get out Kay's bedroom when they wanted to be alone. I tried to put my foot down when Kay complained. I had a talk with Layla about boundaries and managing jealousy, and how maybe we should got back to therapy. She didn't want to listen, and she was cold. She started getting more secretive and Mick started withdrawing. It was then I walked in on them on the couch when I got home from work. I'll be real, I was not calm. I screamed. The whole neighborhood could probably hear. I banned him from the house. I threw her clothes at her and told her to get to her room. I called Kay and asked her to come home. Mick must have gotten to her before me. She came home a mess. It was one of the worst days on my life after losing my husband. Honestly, my daughter was devastated, and it was my other daughter that did it. Once Kay calmed down, she asked me to take her to my mom's house, and I did. When I got back, I went to talk to Layla. She was sobbing, saying I ruined everything, that I hated her, that I was always ruining her life, that they were meant to be together. I held her despite wanting to scream some sense into her. When the dust settled, we talked. She fought any sort of blame, accusing her sister of abusing Mick, of Kay keeping them apart. As gently as possible, I told her that while Mick is awful, what she did is also terrible. She needed to apologize. She refused. That's not even the half of it, but the relationship has been strained for the past few years. Kay has moved on, and I am close with Kay and his husband. I'm careful to never talk about Layla and to be respectful of Kay's boundaries. Layla, however, begs for information about Kay, wants me to tell her everything, whines about how it was in the past, how she needs to get over it. I just told her, what do you expect? You never apologized. What you did was wrong. I love you, but I'm not the one to rebuild this relationship anymore. You're not kids. She didn't like that. And while I feel like I'm respecting Kay's boundaries, even my mom says I need to try harder to reunite them. So AITA. Edit. For clarification on a few things, Kay asked to go her grandmother's after what happened. She couldn't be in the same house as her sister. I couldn't move Layla because she was locked up in her room. So Kay decided she needed to leave. This was in no way me dropping her off to comfort Layla. I got home at 1 p.m. to find them, and after Kay had come home soon after and I'd calmed her down, she asked to spend some time at grandma's, and I said yes. I was with her till 2 a.m. the next morning till she fell asleep between my mother and I left to go home. I checked on Layla, and I know I might be in awe, but she is my child too. She, despite getting herself into this mess, was incredibly distressed. Maybe I was too gentle with her. Maybe I should have yelled or gotten more angry. But in hindsight, I don't regret the decision to be there for both my daughters. When I looked at Kay, I saw heartbreak and betrayal, and when I saw Layla, I saw a very scared, broken person. Kay made the decision to stay at her grandmother's. She did so for a little while, then I helped her move to her own place. I visited almost every day. I went for dinners at her house. We had sleepovers. I went to doctor's appointments with her. We started doing pottery together. I tried really hard to be good for her. Layla has not been out of therapy for more than a few months since she was 10. Her diagnosis has always been unclear, but she does suffer from OCD, PTSD from her father's passing, and anger issues from when I last had anything to do with her therapy. Obviously, she's an adult. If she's learnt any more about her condition, she hasn't shared it. Layla moved out just before she turned 20. The year and a bit after what happened was very hard. Between trying to hold her accountable and not ruin what I had with Kay, it was difficult. And finally, I never claimed to be perfect. I suffered a lot with postnatal depression after both my girls, and while when Layla was younger she did show signs of being harsh and unkind at times, I was working 2 jobs with a terminally ill husband. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention to her. Maybe therapy should have started sooner. I feel like there's so much I could do better. And I wish I'd had their dad with me to help us. But it was just me, and I did what felt right at the time. All in all, this has felt extremely cathartic, and I want to say thank you to everyone who cared to read and comment. I think it's time I talked to someone myself. You have all been wonderful. Story 2. AITA for refusing to take the blame for neglecting my 2-year-old niece. I am the type who prefer to live in my own world most of the times unless working or asked to be social, and usually spend my weekends alone in my room with doors and windows closed, headphone overhead, and either watch drama or play games. I live with my parents and sister 23, who is a single mother for now, that is, complicated, of a 2-year-old. I woke up at 1 p.m. on Sunday after binging a series of movies the previous night, cleaned myself, ate something and went back to my room. At around 4 p.m. my sister stormed into my room and screamed at me. I was confused at first but then understood that she had left my niece in the house and I was supposed to babysit her. I don't mind babysitting but I didn't remember her telling me anything about babysitting the previous day. She told me to check my phone and there it was, a text previous night from her telling me that she would be out next morning and asked me to feed and look after my niece till afternoon. I missed it. I honestly did not know that the baby was in the house and assumed that nobody was home. My niece had been hungry and must have been crying for a very long time, soiled herself and was rather miserable. My sister kept yelling at me till she got into tears, calling me unreliable, useless, waste of space and some vulgarities etc., which might be true but I don't really care. I responded that she should also be ashamed of herself for leaving her baby to someone as unreliable as me without even bothering to confirm that I have received her message. She is the mother and primary caretaker, not me, and if anything she is the one neglecting her child. My sister cried harder, left my room and hasn't talked to me since. For the peace of the family my parents have been urging me to apologize to my sister for being harsh on my words and pushing blame to her. I can apologize if that is what they wanted, but I doubt she would forgive me. I think I was just stating the truth though. AITA. Edit for clarity. I do have a job, study and pay lower than market rent and do chores too, just that I don't like human interaction in general, so when not required to be social I prefer to be alone reading, listening to music, watching drama or gaming. I don't remember hearing my niece crying that day. It could be me, my headphones canceling out her sound, or that when she wasn't crying anymore when I came out. It could also be me being completely oblivious, can't deny that possibility. There are hundreds of messages on my phone every day, from advertisement to group chats and personal messages. While I do get notifications, I don't tend to check messages that frequently when I am not working, so my sister's message got lost in there. Yes, I am apathetic, always had been, but I can be social when needed and get along with my peers. No, I am fine, so I don't need professional help. Just like how being gay isn't a mental issue that needs to be corrected, no offense, just a comparison. My niece is fine. Story 3. AITA for taking my daughter with me on trips without her sister. I am a writer, journalist with a private helicopter, so I was able to continue traveling, working during COVID. I have shared custody of my 16-year-old daughter. Due to all the lockdowns, I took her with me on some of the more exciting, socially distant places that I was assigned to. I had permission. It was great for her since she was able to get out of the house occasionally. Her mom, my ex-wife, is married and has a stepdaughter that's 15. She had been staying at home through all of the lockdowns and was extremely jealous of my daughter for going on these trips. My ex asked me if I could consider bringing stepdaughter along when I take my daughter out, but I declined. I don't want to be liable in case something happens, and, frankly, I just don't care about her stepdaughter. I want to use these trips to bond with my daughter. Apparently ex's home is getting difficult with daughter and her stepsister constantly fighting due to the jealousy. My daughter asked if she could live with me full-time, and I'm more than happy to make that happen, but obviously ex-wife isn't happy with that arrangement and begged me to just take her stepdaughter on one trip. I said no. Daughter doesn't want her to come either. My ex has been quite nasty to me lately, claiming I'm deliberately trying to keep my daughter from getting close with her stepfather, stepsister, but she doesn't really seem all that close to them to begin with. She's been staying with me more and more and going on more of my trips, as her classes are all online, and she really enjoys it. AITA for not bringing her stepsister with us on these trips. Story 4. AITA for not wanting to meet my biological mother and siblings. I'm the product of a short-term relationship between my biological mother and my father that ended when I was 4 months old. For her own reasons, my biological mother decided she didn't want to raise me and she gave up her rights to me. She got married when I was 10 months old and had the first of 4 children with her husband 2 weeks after my 2nd birthday. My dad raised me by himself until I was 13 when he died. My uncle adopted me and raised me. My biological mother came to the funeral, but she didn't reach out to me at any point. I've always considered myself an only child and an orphan. Recently her 4 kids reached out to me. I'm not sure what they've been told, if they know the whole story, but they seem to have known about me for a while before reaching out. Oddly enough, I actually know their father, I guess my stepfather, because he was my art teacher in high school, and he privately told me who he was. We kept in touch and have a distant, friendly relationship, but I don't consider him a step-parent. So, as I say, their children have reached out to me a few times and I've declined their requests each time. I'm sure they're lovely people, but they aren't part of my world and I really don't have an interest in knowing them. I went through a lot of mental hurdles growing up knowing I wasn't good enough for my mother, but they were, and it's been with a great deal of help and hard work that I've worked through my issues and have become much healthier, and happier from it. I'm married with a family of my own, and as bad as it sounds, I've got enough going on without adding more to it in the form of meeting these people. Part of my issue with meeting them is that they've intimated that their mother wants to know me now, and I really don't want to do that. I have absolutely zero interest in knowing her. I have no malice for her. I wish her well, but she has no idea what her rejection of me did to my psyche and how much work I had to do to get through it. But that's not her problem, and I have no right to put that on her. She made her choice, and we all have to live with that. The problem is that the 4 siblings are very upset that I don't wish to know them. They've sent multiple messages saying that all they want is one meeting, and if I don't want to know them after that, then they'll stop, but they think that we all need to meet and talk. Up until recently, these were all messages on social media, but they recently sent a letter to my home address, which means they know where I live, and that really creeps me out. So I threatened legal action, and now I guess I'm an asshole because I'm some heartless person who doesn't care about family. I've come here for outside judgment. What do you guys think?